So, hello everybody. What we're gonna be learning today is how to make custom lore for items. So let's get into it. Hello everybody. This is going to be a very long episode, as you can guess. If you read my posts, maybe you can get the impression that this would take a long time, and you're gonna see today why it took me so long. So let's get started. So first off, let's just delete custom item manager and custom item ability manager. So this would usually be here. I am reading this to you from the script. Delete custom item ability manager and custom item manager. Those are not going to be needed. So now we can go into custom item Java class. So in here, what we're going to be doing is going to be editing stuff very, very heavily. Before it looked something like this. So before it was something like this, and we want to change this completely. So what we want to change it to is basically changing it to a record first off. The record of custom item that's going to be an item stack. The explanation of custom item and how it became a record is going to be explained in the next visual. Enjoy. So what is a custom item? Well, a custom item is basically a wrapper of the normal item stack that's found in game. This is how I organize the wrapper. I'm here to explain how the categories work. How it really works is it's basically an API that allows us to modify the persistent data of an item. The persistent data, as you could have guessed, is persistent. That means it gets saved on the physical memory of the server, not just in memory like a lot of other things. When calling functions like these, you're not using any real custom functionality, rather, you're just calling the built-in functions. When calling any getter, you first go through this function and pass in the value, location, and type token. Now for the most important part. When calling any setter, you are of course writing to the persistent data, but after each write that goes through this function, you reload the custom item. What does reloading the custom item do? Well, it actually ignores all of the metadata on the item stack. Instead, it overwrites it, while reading the persistent data as context to fill in all of the data to be displayed. These three in combination is what allows us to do something like this. One of the more important parts is that abilities can't be changed, thus can have their own registry. In the case of our custom items, the abilities are actually saved in the persistent data only as the reference to the ability. First off, we're going to make a public abstract class of registry and type. So the type can be anything, but it is going to be put in a map of namespace key and t, which is going to be the registry. This is going to be protected, so only the children classes can access this registry if they need to, but they usually won't. We're gonna see that. And we just have the register functions, and then we have the get value and entry set. That is it. This is just a wrapper for the actual function, and so is this. And this is just actually registering it into the registry. Okay, so now what we can do is I can show you the custom ability registry. It's very quite simple. It's literally just extends the registry with custom item ability. That is the T. And then just has the instance of itself and get custom ability, which is uses the namespace key as a parameter and returns the get value. Not that complicated. So custom item registry is the same. It's currently not being used. You're gonna see why, because it doesn't need to. It has two uses and those are both in itself. I think this can be deleted. And then custom stat registry, which is the same thing as the previous two. It just has the initialize function for all of the stats, because I found it very convenient for it to be in here in the registry directly. Next thing I want to show you is the stat function or the stat class. So next thing I want to show you is the stat class. It is not that complicated. It is very verbose, I gotta say. So I don't know how I'm gonna explain it to you. So you're gonna have a visual on your screen right now, probably. So a stat is basically in memory, and while it's in memory, it uses components and list of components and stuff like that. But when I have to save it in, the player or in a file or in persistent data, it has to be a string or a list string or any serializable and commonly found, I guess you could say, type. So string, double, float, integer, string, I don't know if I said string already, whatever else, big int, big double, or big decimal, whatever. So that's why, for example, in here, you're gonna see I'm using components for the initializer, and then I'm serializing them immediately using the JSON component serializer. That is the only reason why this is strings. So this so this would ideally be component. All of these strings would be components. But since I can't really do that, it has to be a string because it has to be saved. So most of the function is so most of the functions in it are just wrappers. Get display name is just unwrapping the display name. The get item description is just a for loop that goes through and all of the strings transfers them to components. And one more helper function, which is get hex text color. So that is this here, and this is the only one that is not a component but would be text color. This is the only one that is not a component but would be text color. Next thing I want to tell you to do is over here in the plugin YML, just add this. I forgot to do that in the last episode. So it is depend and add the dependency as the protocol lib. So over here in the main plugin, what you're going to do is also add the depend. It's not going to be protocol level, but it's going to be Lyphea API. So let's get back to the API for now. What we also want to modify is the custom player class. So what we did over here is, it's not that much, but it is something. So over here, instead of it being all fields, we added a private final map of strings and floats. Again, strings are here for the same reason. So this is something different. That is going to be the next episode. This is, again, a little spoiler. But this has to be string for the same reason that it had to be anything else, or that it couldn't be. So this has to be strings because of the same reason that there couldn't be components, but again, had to be strings. Or there could be text color, but had to be string. Same reason. So I'm gonna skip what we already had, and I'm gonna show you what I modified. So first of all, what I edited is custom or cast custom item ability. So over here, what we did is previously it checked the container and blah, blah, blah. So we moved all of that, as you saw, into the custom item. And what we did is just the player, we got the item in main hand and we just created a custom item. So this is how you create a custom item, period. That is it. You don't need to do anything. It's this simple. And we just got the item through the ability registry. Or sorry, we have the custom item and we just got the item ability through the custom ability registry. And we just cast the custom player consumer, we got that and then accept. So we just cast it and that's it. So all of that BS got shortened down to only one line. That is very, very nice, you could say. So over here, we just did a little bit of basic wrapping, right? Append stat, get stat, get stat. So it's not anything complicated. And underneath here, we did stat and stat. So this is basically just setting a value. So this is appending it as in registering it to the player. And this is actually assigning it a value. As you can see over here, it would assign it the default value, which would 99% of the time just be 0. As you can see, it would be 0 for these two. So I was a bit lazy, I'm gonna be honest. So I added only 2, and all of the rest of them are currently commented out. As you can see, they are commented out. And I forgot to uncomment this. But yeah, it is basically... Okay. I just forgot to append it. But yeah, it is basically commented out because I honestly was a bit lazy and I couldn't be bothered to, if I'm being honest. So this is my bad, if I'm being honest. So the next part we want to do is custom player manager, which we are exactly here. So I mean, I just commented it out, as you see, and if you noticed, all of the fields that are coincidentally the same fields that are here. By the way, this is me just logging info. This doesn't do anything logically. So all of these, mana, damage, strength, defense, and so on, were previously over here in the fields. I deleted them and put them in stats. So my goal with this is to actually create something like stats having kind of their own properties and being treated as different things, while fields don't even have to be initialized. They don't have to have a registry. They can be just anything. They are just remembered in memory and saved later on. But they are, I'm not gonna say not important, but they are like messy data. As you see, this is race, height, rank, level. So this is something that can, change very, very often and doesn't necessarily have to be a stat. It isn't necessarily a stat. And also these are definitely going to be used more often than fields. And so making it easy to register stats is going to be indefinitely easier than making it easy to register fields. Because fields are messy by default, because you're gonna have lots of data types and lots of weird and quirky things. So it's best off if we just did stats separate to fields. Next, what we're gonna do is custom item ability. So this is what I have to show you. This is laughably simple. This is all that it has become. We deleted all of the registering, this is what I'm talking about when I say messy. So this is sort of part of already going into the fields, and this is kind of messy. As you can see, I mean, it's not real. It's a record, and that's it. It doesn't have any data, no functions, no getters, setters, fields, nothing, just one consumer, and that is the custom player consumer, and that is it. So that is it for the API. Now let's go into the main plugin. Okay, here we are. So first what I want to show you is, so you remember the problem that I had last episode or 2 episodes ago, that it was all black, or sorry, it was all red when I reloaded. So what you have to do is delete this line where you implement uh, the actual lib folder, right? You have to delete it, reload, and then put it back and then reload again. That's going to so that's going to delete the cache and delete all of the dependencies and stuff that was included. And then when you put it back, it's gonna re-download them or reinitialize them or whatever. So that is how you fix the issue. So let's go into the simple stuff. So first, what I did is in here in the custom player manager, So what I did first off was over here in the Lyphea in the main plugin is over here, as you can see. So previously it was custom item manager, get item registry. I'm gonna flash that over here somewhere, what it looked like. And I just did this. So I just changed it a little bit, used the instance and the registry instead of the manager and then the registry. This just makes more sense, directly being able to access it. And so that is what happened mostly everywhere. So let's see, give custom item executor. I also changed it over here, as you can see. So previously it was, again, I'm gonna flash it here. Custom item manager, get item registry dot get, and then dot get item sec. So this is again quite a lot less characters. And then remove mana executor. So this is where a lot of changes happened. So if you remember, again, this was a lot of crap was here. So I mean, this is a couple of lines more, but it definitely explains itself a lot better. So first what we do is over here from double we go to float, don't forget that. And then what we do, because if you do, I mean I can do it for you, so you can see it's gonna, yeah, it's gonna make it red here. It doesn't know what to do, and you're gonna cast it here, and then it doesn't look nice. So this is infinitely better. So we get the custom player from the custom player manager. We get the player with his unique ID, so that stayed, right? More or less. And then we get the stat, which is, I mean, custom player dot get stat dot mana. Very simple, very simple. So we send the message to the player, your current mana. There we go, that stayed. I mean, more or less. It's again easier to write with the system that we have. And then custom player dot stat. So this is setting the stat to of mana to be stat plus amount. The amount is what we pass here that we change from double to float. And that is going to be whatever, stat plus a bajillion, doesn't matter, bajillion. So then stat equals, so this is just me doing this so I can tell the player his new mana. Which, I mean, you can, to be fair, you can do something like this. It's still gonna work. I just wanted to make it easier for me to explain it. So next thing we want to see is probably going to be the items. A lot of changes happened here. First, what we can do is delete this. It's not very useful. It's not at all. So what we want to do is, I mean, I want to show you what happened here. It got a little bit more space in it. It's got a little bit more space in it. It's a little bit more verbose maybe, but if you look at it, it makes more sense. I think, in my opinion, it makes more sense. So you take the instance of the registry and register the custom ability first off. So it's going to be, the ID is going to be test name, and then we create the custom item ability, and that is going to be, I mean, you saw what it is. It's just a record. It's literally just a record, so that's all we have to initialize. And I mean, that can be as simple as nothing. It can literally be nothing, just a null. There we go, and that would work. But we want some functionality, so because of that, what we do is the current mana, we just get the mana as a stat. We check if he has less. If he does, we can do you don't have enough mana. And then we just take his mana stat and set it to current mana minus 10. Send him a message of the test ability and send him the noise. So this didn't change that much. The last couple of lines are the same, right? The last 3 lines are the same. But now we go over here where we call the create item stack. So if you remember, it returned an item stack. So instead of that, now it returns the custom item that is created over here. And as you can see, it really is that simple. So you just create the custom item. If the item stack itself already has something in the persistent data, then it's going to initialize it with that. If it doesn't, you can just add it yourself, as we did here. And then in this case, we just added the custom item stat and mana and put it to 0. But we can delete that. And now we can set it here. And instead of in the create item stack, instead of actually registering, we're gonna do that outside. We're gonna do that here. There's gonna be test name over here. And it's definitely gonna be item, and it's definitely gonna be item stack. There we go. The one thing we want to change is add the custom stat, and we want to do, let's say, mana, and let's do 10. And over here we want to do, instead of health, because we didn't actually initialize it because I was lazy, we want to do damage and set it to 25.3 or whatever I set it to. I don't remember. 23.5 or 25.5, sorry. So there we go. And in terms of functionality, that is it actually. It did take me a long time because it takes a lot of it takes a lot of thinking for you to actually be able to implement something like this. It is very heavy in terms of logic. It isn't that actually heavy in terms of performance. But that is it for this episode. If you liked it, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, share. In the next episode, we're probably going to be doing something similar to this, just with abilities. Because abilities are quite limited now and not the best made, let's be honest. But yeah, and if you want to check if this works, we can go ahead, and you don't have enough mana, so that still works. So let's give myself mana. And I know the name of the function doesn't really make sense. It says remove mana, but we also had minus 1000 mana, so that also works. It remembered our mana. So let's right click. And there we go. So yeah, there you go.